Hey everyone, Dankestad here, and today I want to get into a topic I've been meaning to cover for a while, which is winning with zero cost cards and when and how to use them in World of Wildhearts. Before we get into it for Wildhearts, I want to talk a bit about the background of zero cost cards in other TCGs so you best know how to use them in this game. So to start, for a bit of background, the two traditional resources in TCGs are cost and value when evaluating a card. If you're looking at cost, you're trying to figure out how do you pay to get this card's effect and get it into play. In Magic or Hearthstone, you'd be looking at something like mana. In the Final Fantasy TCG or Flesh and Blood, you would be pitching or discarding cards to pay for cost. Or in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, where cards are notoriously free, you still have to consider tributes, materials if you're doing a fusion, synchro, or one of the other many special summon mechanics that you need to get that card onto the board and get its effect. Next, of course, is the value. So for that one card, how much are you accomplishing? What's the impact? So you might look at stats on board that is putting proactively there for you, stats that are being removed from the board permanently with a Doomblade S destruction effect, or temporarily with a card like Sap in Hearthstone or Vanish. Some of these cards also will gain you more resources to pay cost or generate value, and ramp cards or card draw cards are the ones that fit in this category. So, this value part is pretty important. You're only going to be drawing one or two cards most turns at the beginning in a TCG, and otherwise, you're going to need to actually spend cards to get more. So giving up a card to get an effect is non-trivial, even if that card doesn't cost a lot of these other resources over here. So, in a traditional TCG, zero cost cards minimize tax on one resource to maximally tax the other. So, you're going to be spending no resources. You're not going to be discarding cards. You're not going to be paying mana, but you are spending a card. So that no resources part is a bit of a lie. So spending a whole card for just a minor effect can be pretty backbreaking. And a lot of the time, cards that tax us too much and don't do enough for spending that one precious draw a turn are not the ones that are going to see play. The ones that are moderate or high value and break that paradigm are the ones that you're going to see at top tables. And designers are smart. So these days, the zero cost cards that you see often do fall into that bucket of ones that are worth a little bit more than their mana value might suggest. Here are some weak zeros, and one thing you'll notice about these is that a lot of them are older. They are not new. As I said, designers are smart, but for a 0/1 creature in Magic, 200 life points in Yu Gi Oh!, or just a 1/1 in Hearthstone, you're not getting much bang for your buck. And these cards historically have never seen competitive play and probably never will. But now we have the strong zeros, and these are the ones that really break that. So Shadow Step gives you lots and lots of potential value. Hearthstone players love to hate this card, and being able to recur a battle cry for 2 mana less than it costs to put into play initially is pretty great. And rogue decks have been playing Shadow Step since the beginning of the game, and they're not stopping anytime soon. Pot of Greed is a meme for a reason. Draw 2 cards is pretty self explanatory. You have a 0 card that becomes 2 cards. So you are actually gaining a card by playing this, which makes Pot of Greed really, really strong. Black Lotus, you can sacrifice for 3 mana of any one color, and the original is the most expensive trading card on the planet for a reason. You can just simply sacrifice Black Lotus, and boom, you have all the mana you need to make other plays. And in a deck designed around that effect, going down a card to be able to play a few turns ahead of schedule is more than worth it. But there's a new dimension. If you played Super Paper Mario, you might recognize this screenshot, but we're flipping the script here a bit with Wildhearts and some other newer TCGs. Because we have a new resource to consider beyond cost and value, we have actions. So Legends of Runeterra, Star Wars Unlimited, and World of Wildhearts are games that really have pushed this new system a bit into the spotlight. It's been around for a while, but now it's kind of becoming more popular in some big games. And in these systems, neither player is taking a turn uninterrupted. Players are taking turns playing cards and taking actions and passing priority back and forth. So, what does this mean for zeros? This means that you can play them to take advantage of this system. So some zeros have speed, and cards with speed don't count as taking an action, so they're essentially free in that regard. And this means that cards that offer selection are really valuable in this slot. So Sacrificial Bond and Moonlight Aura, with these gorgeous full and alternate arts, are great examples of this. So Sacrificial Bond lets you KO an ally to draw a card, and then you can gain Sacrificial Bond as an exhausted resource. So that gives you some ramp, which is pretty good, but also drawing a card lets you see more plays for that next action that you're about to take, and KOing a friendly ally could give you access to a KO effect, which in turn could draw you even more cards and give you more access to future plays. So without giving up that action, Sacrificial Bond can let you find an answer and either sneak in a proactive play or react to your opponent before they can set up their defenses or muck up what you're trying to do. Moonlight Aura has a little bit less going on, but it still is extremely, extremely strong. Being able to shuffle 2 special attack tokens into your deck and draw a card is pretty good because that is 1 extra card. But those special attack tokens are also 0-cost cards with speed. So you might be able to keep the train going, play Moonlight Aura, perhaps trigger any effects that happen when you play a card like Hydrophon. Then you can take 1 power off of your opponent's things, draw another card, keep that selection going, and it's really great. So, if the card says draw a card, often speed is going to be an upside. So look out for that when you're thinking about which zeros with speed you're going to put in your deck. But of course, we can go second with the slow roll, and this is just as good, if not more powerful. So talking up speed is cool, but with these cards, you can put your opponent on the back foot, and you can tell them that they are the ones who need to commit their resources and make a play, while you sit back with your cards in hand, your unexhausted resources, and you have the exact tools you need to go for the open field, KO their big play for less resources than they spent, or just set up for next turn knowing that they aren't going to be forcing the issue right now. So these slower 0-cost cards don't usually draw cards or offer selection, but they give immediate impact. Strength Training can provide 2 power to an ally immediately, and Lucky Hat gives you a 1-cost discount on your next card, kind of like Innervate in Hearthstone, or perhaps a more fair ramp card in other games. Not quite Black Lotus, but Lucky Hat is phenomenal. And being able to play these cards as a delay tactic to say, okay, I'm setting up for this next play, I'm applying some pressure, I'm going to make you answer this, is really good. Because usually the answers and reactions can be just a little bit more cost efficient than the proactive thing, at least early in the game. Also, these cards are great because if your opponent tries to do this to you, you have a natural response. So if your opponent plays a strength training and says, all right, you now need to figure out what you're going to do because I've functionally passed while building up a little power, you can answer in turn with a strength training of your own. So making sure that you have enough of these to control the flow of the actions passing back and forth and be either in the front if you're trying to get there with speed zeros or in the back with these slower ones can be really useful and let you get the most out of your cards. Now, you'll also see these cards have great support effects, but I think that that's a topic for another day. We've already kind of diving in there a lot with this, and we can talk takeaways. So you want to run enough 0-cost cards to give you flexibility. Don't let your opponent corner you and limit your options. So, especially in the early turns, when resources are constrained and players are only starting with two, you're going to want more ways to take actions, control the flow, and be unpredictable. Because if you see two resources exhausted, you know that your opponent can't play a Sylph Amulet, but there always could be a strength training in the back. So, generally, when I'm deck building, I try to look to keep about 4 to 6 zeros in my deck just for that flexibility. But some decks are going to be more successful with two, some might be more successful with an even larger number in the future. But for now, just try to at least have, that baseline number of zeros so that your opponent can't see you exhaust that last resource and then just play as if you're not even there. Zero cost cards with speed give you more information and they can enable other plays in the same action. Even that special attack we talked about can put negative power on something. You could follow that up then with a double edge hit and take that thing out. Like, there are so many uses that you have for this that don't let your opponent kind of respond in turn and stop you from enabling the synergy your deck relies on. And then, last but not least, take advantage of the positioning that the zero cost cards give you. Reducing the cost of your next card or giving a card power is very strong, but also that positioning play is important. And sometimes it might be better to hold those cards if you're not seeing them translate directly to victory points, and instead keep them for later in the game where you need to make a high leverage choice and want to hold on to that card so that your opponent needs to show their hand. But that's all for now. If there's anything else about zero cost cards that you want to know that I didn't get to cover here, please shout out in the comments and let me know. Otherwise, keep an eye out for foundations to start coming soon. It is the month of March, so I'll be here with some cards on the channel sometime to show off, hopefully. And I hope you have them too. Looking forward to playing with you, and